Good evening and welcome to the Dear Old State Update brought to you by Penn State Sports Night. I'm Jenny Karamis alongside Connor Pattison to bring you the latest of Penn State sports.
Over the past few weeks, our beat reporters have been busy covering various Penn State sports, from a women's soccer's playoff berth to a men's hockey series sweep. The Dear Old State Update starts now. Over the past weekend, men's hockey extended their winning streak to 5 in a row. They are looking to stay hot with a Big Ten matchup against Ohio State on the horizon. Cassie Vaselis and Annika Wagner are in the studio to break down the Nittany Lions' recent hot streak and provide some insight on the conference matchup this week.
Thanks, Connor. Men's hockey completed their homestand this past weekend with a series sweep against Stonehill. From new Nittany Lions getting on the score sheet to the veteran members continuing to stay hot, there was a lot to talk about before the team plays their first conference opponent. Now, Annika, despite having the sweep in this series, this team did have a little bit of struggles this past weekend. What did you see?
Yeah, I've especially seen there's been a difference in the competitiveness and the put-togetherness of the team in Game 2 versus Game 1. In Game 1, it's much more sloppy. And really, that goes back to even the series with Clarkson a few weeks ago. They've been much more dominant in Game 2. And going now into conference play, you can't continue that. I mean, I know that you learn a team from one night to another, but hockey is a fast game, and you need to really adapt to that in the game and not have those slow starts. They've also been struggling to find their identity. They're still building chemistry between the lines and trying to find that identity and build themselves as a team, as a unit. They're also just struggling. I mean, they're the most penalized team in the country. They have nearly 200 penalty minutes already, and that's just something that they can't continue. Even with their strong penalty kill, the discipline needs to really step up. They also, on the flip side of penalties, they have to capitalize on their power play opportunities that they have. They went 2 for 11 in this series against Stonehill, and they have the talent to do better, and they need to really work to capitalize off of those opportunities, because sometimes those are the only times that you'll get the easier opportunities in a match.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned the differences between Game 1 and Game 2. And right after Game 1, when we talked to Coach Guy Godowski, he was pretty disappointed, honestly, in how the team played. Yes, they got the win, which really matters, but there was a lot of sloppy play in that game, passes being intercepted, the other team getting far too many breakaways. So that was obviously a struggle in Game 1 that they definitely figured out for sure in Game 2, but not 100%. Another thing is still lacking some of that synergy in the lines. You have some of the lines who are doing great and are producing all the points, but even in the middle of Game 1, he was switching lines, changing centers, and then Game 2 had some new lines that we've never seen. So that also ties into them building their identity, which they're still working on. They have an identity line, which I'll get to later, but they still need as a whole to gain that identity. Now, yes, there were negatives, but there's always positives, especially when you take a sweep. What were some of those?
Yeah, I mean, you can't talk about the positives without talking about their magic line, the line with the most synergy, as Guy Godowski would put it. I mean, JJ DeMarsico and then Charlie Serrato, they have been so dynamic. I mean, right here off the post and then finished JJ on that finish. I mean, they have accounted for their number 1, 2, and 6 in the nation in points, leading 17, 15, 13. And they've been a real key in this success in the Penn State offense. And also with that, there's also been Charlie Serrato has had much success at the faceoff dot. He has a 607 clip this season, and he really attributes that to also how he's playing with Didi and JJ aside from him. He says that their chemistry has really helped to win those 50-50 plays, having those wingers alongside of him. And really, you can see it when they play. They have fun together. They have that chemistry, and they're really leading this team. And another really bright spot is that penalty kill. I mean, they've only allowed 3 goals in 39 attempts, and they've just been that has been keeping them in games, keeping them in close games, in those comeback games that they've had to play in.
Yeah, and you can't talk about the penalty kill without talking about the goaltenders. You have both Fleming and Redler. They've been so good so far. It's a great problem to have when you can't decide which goalie you want to start each game. Fleming has a 95% save percentage, Redler 91. So they've been so dominant in the goal. And Guy Gadowski said today he's not sure which one will start against Ohio State, but probably the same system where one starts one game, the other starts the next game. You also have to talk about the freshmen and the new transfers. Gavin McKenna, a huge one to point out there. He has 10 points. Right now you're watching his first goal at home. The crowd had erupted for that one. Then he had a power play goal in the second game. We also have Jackson Smith, who has 7 points, and Matt Gadowski with 3. But there are some new players on this team who might not be on the score sheet. Like you have Lev, who brings the physicality. Same with Nolan Collins. You have Shea Van Olm. He got his first collegiate goal this past series. And then you have Luke Misa, who is on that identity line, which really brings momentum to all of those other lines. And then another thing that we saw last year too was Coach Guy Gadowski kind of lets them talk in the locker room amongst themselves. He lets them lead the conversation. And he said that the 3 main leaders that came to his head today were Ben Schoen, Dane Dowiak, the captain, and then Nick Chindegrave. So there is a lot of leadership on this team, which is really helping them stay strong in those moments. And now with non-conference play over, now they take a step up into the conference play. They take on Ohio State this weekend. And then right after that, Michigan State. So looking specifically at Ohio State, what can we expect from that?
Yeah, well, first, heading into conference play, I mean, Gadowski said it today in media, it's a much different deal than non-conference play. Yes, they did play a good team in Arizona earlier this season, but going into conference play, this is a really tough couple of weeks coming here with number 17 and then the number 1 team after that, going on the road for both of them, going on the road for Ohio State's blackout night this coming weekend. I mean, this is a different deal, and they're really going to need to work together and find that identity a little faster because now these games they're what matter. Mm-hmm. And they're really going to need to find that. They're also going to need to attack from the drop of the puck like they've pounded on. They need to be aggressive from the start. And also, Ohio State is a great team in the neutral zone, so they're really going to need to attack that and try and find those 50-50s, trying to get them off. And, of course, they need to be better on the faceoffs. They're just above 500 with a 530 clip this season. They're going to really need to get those 50-50s, win those pucks to stay in this game and hopefully get a sweep out of it.
Yeah, and like you said, they cannot have a slow start, especially in these conference games. They need to stay out of the box. Again, 193 penalty minutes compared to Ohio State's 62. That's huge. Ben Schoen said that they just need to play Penn State hockey. And even Matt Gadowski said there's a lot behind these games, and he hasn't played on the Big Ten side of things, playing against a Big Ten team. So he's going to have that. But yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward to in this big game. It'll be very action-packed, and then they head right to Michigan State right after that.
Yeah.
The Nittany Lions will head to Columbus, Ohio to take on the Buckeyes on Thursday and Friday in what is expected to be an action-packed series. Now let's head over to the desk where Connor is with the women's soccer beat reporters.
Women's soccer ended their regular season with a big home victory against Ohio State yesterday afternoon. This came after a tough road loss to Indiana the week before. I'm here with women's soccer beat reporters Kylie Smith and Brendan Kern. Kylie, what did you see work for Penn State that we haven't been seeing in games before?
Yeah, yesterday I think you really saw this Penn State team play the game that they are known for, and that's an offensive game. This team was attacking with numbers into Ohio State's 18-yard box, passing around and maintaining possession in those moments. Now, they weren't looking for the perfect goal, which is what they needed to do. They needed to find the back of the net. Similarly, with Erica Dombach, the head coach, saying that they needed to press with numbers as well. So when the Ohio State team had the ball, there was 2-3 girls going to press her, and that forced turnovers, which gave Penn State possession and ultimately led them to score.
Yeah, we know this team's been able to dominate possession. They've done it all season. They did it against Ohio State. What we finally got to see was this team was aggressive with a purpose. This is their first game since October 12th against Oregon. They had more shots on target than the other team. We've been harping on that. We really want to see this team be aggressive, and that's exactly what we got. We also saw they were able to win physically. There were 4 yellow cards in this game, 3 against Ohio State. Not only were they able to keep up in that kind of game environment, but they were able to take advantage of it. They scored on a free kick in the 29th minute. That was their first goal of the game. If they're able to be aggressive this consistently and win in these physical environments, it's going to be great for them moving forward.
Yeah, those are both great points. And like I just mentioned, they're coming off a pretty big ranked win against Ohio State. But when it comes to tournament play, it's really anyone's game, as we've seen in pretty much any college sport. What are some things that you think the team needs to focus on to be successful in tournament play?
Yeah, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Penn State is amazing at forcing corner kicks, forcing free kicks outside of the box. And that is sometimes a difference, a game changer when heading into these bigger games where scoring is not as easy, obviously. So Riley Gleason, who takes the majority of their corner kicks, Dombach has great trust in her to have her put the ball into those areas where her players can get a head on it, get a body on it, and score a goal that's a little bit more gritty. We saw in Ohio State yesterday when Gleason passed it to Askew and chipped it in the box for an Ohio State own goal. Those are things that can happen, and those are game changers in this moment.
Yeah, the most important thing in postseason play, one game at a time. There's no more looking forward to games that might be a little more important than the next. Every game's important, and it starts first round of the Big Ten tournament against UCLA. Penn State, 3rd most goals in the Big Ten this season. UCLA, 3rd least amount. How are they able to be the successful? The defense has been otherworldly. UCLA's allowed 5 goals all season. That's not in a week, month, second half of the season. That's 5 goals all year. So Penn State's got their work cut out for them. It's going to be a defensive game. Mackenzie Gress, the goalie for the Nittany Lions, just had one of the best games of her collegiate career, 3 saves and a shutout against Ohio State. It's her 2nd shutout of the season. I anticipate this game being low scoring. It's going to be probably another physical fight like they had against Ohio State. They're going to have their work cut out for them against a really good UCLA team.
You know, they've looked phenomenal recently, especially in the Ohio State game, like you mentioned and I mentioned. But like any sport, it's end of the season now. You have maybe star players, maybe some role players beat up, or maybe just flat out tired. How do you see this team continue to be successful and maintain that success throughout tournament play, even with some of these crucial injuries?
Yeah, I think yesterday was a great testimony to what Penn State can do, even with some of their crucial players being out. So Aubrey Culpa, is Penn State's leading scorer. She has 8 goals on the season, 6 assists. She's tied for 2nd in Big Ten points-wise. This is a player that they look for on the attack, and she hasn't been there the past 3 games. Penn State was still able to manage to play as a team and a unit and find the back of the net, like I said. And I think that is such a confidence boost as you go into tournament play, knowing that they can do that. And hopefully they'll have her back for the NCAA tournament. But for now, I think it's almost a relief knowing that that's possible.
Yeah, at this point in the season, it's a next player up mentality. Everyone's got to be looking to be aggressive. UCLA, they haven't been hit kind of with the same injury bug. Nikki Fraser, Big Ten freshman of the year last season on defense. She has not played the entire year, and their defense has still looked as good as it has. Penn State, they got to look to continue to be aggressive no matter who it is. It's going to be a tough test for them come tournament time.
And it's even harder in college when you lose these stars and star players. It's compared to the pros, maybe you have another pro as the backup. In college, you don't know what you have. This might be a true freshman who hasn't played since their high school career. So it's really just a bunch of question marks, and it'll be interesting to see as we come near these tournament games.
Definitely.
Women's soccer was awarded a bye game as the number 6 seed in the Big Ten tournament. They are set to face UCLA Saturday night at 7:30 in hopes to move forward to the semifinals. In the meantime, Charlie Drexler was at the field hockey games against Iowa and Indiana. Let's take a look.
Penn State field hockey is taking on 2 Big Ten opponents this weekend. They will be playing Iowa and they will be playing Indiana. Iowa's game is for the Pink Out Alumni Day, and Indiana's game is for Senior Day. They look to improve to 7-7 after this weekend and 3-4 in the Big Ten Conference.
Today's Iowa game kicks off a big Big Ten weekend. The Pink Out game for the Lions is extremely competitive, with both teams having strong sessions. Their goalie, Abby DeVerka, had strong saves to keep the game tied 0-0. Spirits were high in the stands, on the field, and off the field. Look at the Semler's dog. This game was aggressive and competitive, both mentally and physically. In double overtime, true freshman Olivia Marthins was able to score on a great breakaway to help Penn State win. Congratulations, Penn State, on their 6th win of the season. Jumping into Nittany Lions Senior Day, 6 seniors were honored in the pregame ceremony, many taking the field to play. Penn State started strong, scoring early in the first quarter. Unfortunately, the stamina didn't last for Penn State, with Indiana soon taking over offensively. Good thing the fans were there and they were allowed to support their seniors and team today. Indiana field hockey was able to overtake the strong Penn State defense. While they couldn't secure the win, the team was still in high spirits to celebrate their senior day.
That's all today for Penn State Sports Night. I'm Charlie Drexler. Thank you for joining me.
Penn State field hockey has had an eventful 2 weeks, playing 4 games each. Each game tells a different story. I'm Charlie Drexler, joined by Kenzie Ferry to discuss field hockey today. Penn State has gone into 4 overtime games, winning 3 of them. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, going into this Iowa game, Penn State held Iowa scoreless. Shout out Abby Dreska. She held them scoreless. They averaged 3.7 goals per game, Iowa, coming into this game. So I think that was a huge performance from Penn State defense.
Yeah, so Penn State has won 3 of these games. 3 of those games were competitive, and they didn't involve penalty shootouts. That one game they lost went to penalty shootouts. For anyone who doesn't know what a penalty shootout is in field hockey, it is 5 offensive players on each team. They all have 10 seconds to score against the goalie. So that is obviously very competitive. Overtime is such a hard thing to do as a player. They have played the entire game most likely. Now they are playing downgraded to 7v7. So all these overtime games that we have seen have been so competitive. So Olivia Marthins being able to pull off this win in the second overtime was so huge for the program. Really just honing in that intense Iowa game. Iowa's game was a pink out. They had a lot of alumni in the stands because of the upcoming senior day. Mm-hmm. So the crowd was there. They were supportive the whole night, and seeing this win was really great for the team.
Yeah, Olivia Marthins, she's a true freshman for the Nittany Lions. Her 3rd career goal and her 3rd career game winner. I mean, that is a stat in itself.
Yeah, so Iowa was the first game of this weekend. Now we're moving on to Indiana. Indiana was the Nittany Lions Senior Day. We had 6 seniors for the team playing. Graduate student Anouk from the Netherlands wasn't playing, which definitely affected the game, but it was still really competitive, ending in a loss. Let's talk.
Before the loss to Indiana, the Nittany Lions were undefeated at home, which is the Big Ten's only team to remain unbeaten. So I definitely think that loss, definitely played a factor, not having Anouk there.
Yeah, so Penn State was able to score first. They scored in the first quarter, and then Indiana just outshot them. They were great defensively. They were obviously great offensively. The game finished 3-1, and the goals just kept coming. They didn't just happen in one quarter. They happened continuously over the game. The offense looked tired. They looked outplayed. Unfortunately, they still had shots. Penn State drew up some corners at the end of the game to try to get some goals in, but it just wasn't working for the Lions at home, which it has in the past.
I mean, after that second half, coming out, they didn't look the same. I mean, Indiana outshot the Nittany Lions 11-3, with 10 of those shots coming in the 3rd quarter alone. I mean, definitely it took a dip after halftime.
Yeah, so they obviously played 2 Big Ten teams this weekend. They also played two teams on the road this past week. They played Princeton, and that ended in a loss. They also played another team, won 8-0. So they've had a lot of games these past 2 weeks, but the final game will be at home against Rutgers this Friday, October 31st. It is their final Big Ten game, and it's really important for the season.
It is really important for the Nittany Lions' playoff hopes. Currently, the Rutgers are seated at 7th, and the Nittany Lions are seated at 8th, and top 7 advanced to the Big Ten playoffs. So really important for the Nittany Lions to take this win to get hopefully that bump to the 7th spot.
When comparing the 2 teams, they have both played Northwestern, which is obviously a Big Ten powerhouse for field hockey. So Rutgers lost 5-0, where Penn State lost 4-0. So they both did lose to Northwestern, but that's a great comparison to see how they'll be playing against competitive teams. Mm-hmm. So the Rutgers lost. They could not get shots on goal. Their average was significantly lower compared to Penn State shot on goal. So it should be a good game for Penn State. I mean, we're looking forward to it. Yeah. We definitely hope to see Penn State play in the Big Ten tournament. So it's going to be a good game. It's at home. The energy at the stadium is always electric. The stands are always packed. There's always alumni in town, and it's just a great game to see.
We're looking forward to Penn State playing their last Big Ten opponent this Friday. Let's hear from men's soccer about their past 2 weeks of games.
I'm here with men's soccer beat reporters Emily Carter and Chase Brosen. Penn State has faced challenges in recent matches, including 2 tough losses this past week against Washington and Wisconsin. What are some notable vulnerabilities you guys have been seeing in their play?
Yeah, well, recently, these past few matchups, some really big issues that have been exposed have been ones that have been more common and seen this season, and that's those issues of execution and finishing on the offensive side of the ball. For example, in their matchup against Washington this past week, where they struggled to create opportunities in the first half. However, they were able to regain hope in that second half and create a lot more opportunities, but yet again, they struggled to capitalize on those opportunities, ultimately costing them that game. Additionally, in that second half of that game, they were able to earn consecutive set-piece corner kicks. However, they struggled to capitalize on those. Even with good ball placement there, they weren't able to get any points on the board. And we've seen throughout the season, time and time again, against a lot of these more really competitive teams, they've struggled to get points on the board. Even when they have created opportunities, like we saw in that Washington matchup in that second half, they've struggled to create those opportunities, and they struggled to really finish and capitalize on those. And ultimately, that's what's costed them some really big points this season that has diminished hopes of playoffs. Additionally, looking on the defensive side of the ball, there's definitely been some gaps exposed there recently. Again, we've said time and time again, they struggle on those more high tempo and elite attacks. And that's been true in these past couple of games where they've had to rely heavily on goalkeeping. With that being said, lucky for them, Jonathan Evans, the redshirt freshman, has put on some phenomenal performances these past few games, especially in the game against Washington, where he really was the difference maker. And he was the reason that game didn't end 7-1 like it should have, honestly. He put up some crucial saves. But at this level of competition and in this elite of a conference, you can't rely on goalkeeping. So they're definitely going to need to tighten gaps defensively.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. The offense has been really stagnant. I think this graphic kind of speaks for itself. Penn State has struggled to put points on the board. The past 4 games, they haven't even scored a goal in the first half. And the game that we were at, Washington game, they came out really flat. Coach Cook even noted at halftime how flat they looked in the first half. And their only goal came on a penalty kick. So they really weren't able to move the ball offensively. And I think that's just kind of hurting them as a whole, and they haven't been able to get anything going.
Yeah, you guys were talking a bit about that game against Washington. Penn State really struggled in the first, pulled it together a bit in the second half. Can you walk us through some of the adjustments, some of the changes they made to help create more opportunities in that second half?
Yeah, so one thing this Penn State squad does really well is make adjustments, especially at halftime. As Coach Cook noted, he's really proud of his guys for not just giving up. When you're down 0-2 to a really good team like Washington, it's easy just to give up and roll over, but they don't. This team doesn't really have any quit. They did start moving the ball a little bit better in the second half, but obviously they need to make some changes on the offensive side of the ball. They were starting to pick up some momentum at the end as Washington was getting more tired, and they just kept chipping away, thinking that maybe they could score a goal in like the last couple of minutes, but they couldn't, and it was kind of a heartbreaker for them. Players were falling down on the field after they lost, and you could see how it took an emotional toll on them.
Yeah, absolutely. You could definitely tell towards the end of that second half against Washington, Washington really began to lose a little bit of that tempo, which allowed Penn State to come in more easily and create those opportunities. But one thing is that Coach Cook made a big tactical adjustment at halftime, and that's from switching from their typical 4-4-2 formation, which they typically follow, to a formation of 3-4-3. And that 3-4-3 formation right there, it allows for a more aggressive attack overall, and is what allowed Penn State to break through Washington's defense, which was playing really well that night, and allowed them to create those opportunities. Again, they struggled to capitalize on those opportunities, like I mentioned previously, but it was a day and night difference. It was a totally different team that was playing the first half and the team that was playing the second half. And after the game, we were able to speak a bit with Coach Cook, and I just remember him mentioning that he recognized at halftime that they're going to need to put more bodies in the box, as he mentioned, in order to drive and create more opportunities and break through Washington. And they did just that. And that right there is such a testament to their adaptability and mental toughness that I think should not go unnoticed. And it's hard to switch your formation halfway through the game, but they did it, and they were able to, again, just a different team overall from the one that played in the first half and the one that played in the second. And they were able to drive those opportunities with that adaptability.
Yeah, absolutely. And you both touched on it a bit. How has this Penn State team both responded like physically and mentally to these last few games? And what does that suggest about their upcoming matchup with Ohio State?
Absolutely. I mean, the truth is they haven't had the most desirable of outcomes in these past few games, and it's been a little tough. However, like I mentioned, with their game against Washington, they have an ability to adapt and an ability to come back and just after some really tough and really hard losses. And ultimately, it just demonstrates their level of mental toughness, like I was talking about with that Washington game, but also an overall just level of tactical maturity. And that right there demonstrates their overall resilience. And I will say, if there's one thing that Penn State men's soccer is, it's resilient.
Absolutely.
100% through and through. And they play with a grit. And one thing that I've noticed, especially in these past couple of games, is that they've not allowed the fact that they don't have momentum, or they're coming off a loss, or that they're down 2-0 in the second, or they're not able to create opportunities, whatever it is. They don't allow that to affect how with the grit that they play with. They play hard until the end, and that is something that's hard to do, and that just demonstrates that mental toughness. Another thing that Coach Cook has just said time and time again this season, and says that he tries to instill in his players, is this one game at a time mentality, which means, with the daunting questions and concerns over Big Ten playoffs that are coming ahead, he's just trying to say, hey, focus right here, focus on what we're doing. Let's see what we need to do, what we need to adjust, take it one game at a time. And again, even though they haven't had those desirable results, I think that mentality right there has really helped them to just build in their resilience and overall mental toughness. And that mindset right there is really going to help them in their upcoming matches against Ohio State.
Chase, what have you seen?
Yeah, and with hard losses like they've had these past couple weeks, it's easy to get down yourselves, but I don't think this team has. This team knows that they're a lot better than the record shows. Obviously, the record doesn't look too good right now, but Coach Cook said it himself. He's very optimistic, and they're a couple of goals away from having a winning record and being one of the better teams in the Big Ten. This team knows it. Going forward, they just want to finish off the season strong. Beating a good team like Ohio State would definitely be a confidence boost for this team. They know they can win it, and they haven't. It's not like they've been blown out in any of these games. They've been in all of these games, especially against a very good Washington team. And I think Coach Cook is just proud of the fight they see in this team, and he's just proud of his players, proud of the product they put on the field. Especially as you mentioned, Jonathan Evans. He had a record night the other night. He had his collegiate high in saves. I think he's a really bright star in this program, and I think they're excited for the next couple of years. Obviously, this year they didn't do what they wanted to in terms of making it to the postseason, but I think the future's looking bright, and I think the players know that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just have to see how it goes on Friday, see how they respond against Ohio State. We're wrapping up men's soccer here at the desk as its season is coming to a close, but men's basketball is just getting going with its season opener against Fairfield a week from today. Beat reporter Maya Beeling was at Media Day and has the latest.
The Penn State men's basketball season is right around the corner, and this year they're one of the youngest teams in the Big Ten with 8 freshmen on the roster. The few returners on the team, though, don't think it will be a problem.
Nobody's going to ask us how old we are on the court. Is about how good, if we could play or not.
Head coach Mike Rhodes has 2 main goals for this young group of guys.
The urgency to get better all the time, and then shock the world.
Last year, the star and point guard of this team was Ace Baldwin Jr., and this year, true freshman Caden Mingo is attempting to fill those shoes. His teammates say he's been a leader since day one, and he's already sitting front and center.
I feel like it was a day in, day out type of process, just coming in, showing I could lead the team and showing that I'm trustworthy of having the keys.
Mingo is the highest rated recruit in this program's history. And he is not the only highlight on this young roster. There are also 4 international players on the team compared to last year's 2. Coach Rhodes believes they are going to be valuable members of the team.
Today's landscape, you're trying to get the best players you can, and you're trying to afford the best players you can, right? So they're all over the world.
The Nittany Lions will officially kick off their season in the Bryce Jordan Center on November 3rd against Fairfield. For Penn State Sports Night, I'm Maya Beeling.
Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. at the Bryce Jordan Center. Let's send it across campus to Rec Hall, where women's volleyball took on Rutgers in its Dig Pink match. Reporter Logan Quinn has more.
A cascade of pink flooded Rec Hall on Friday evening as the Nittany Lions took on the Scarlet Knights in their annual Dig Pink match. Number 18 ranked Penn State swept the Scarlet Knights, but not without a fight early on. The Nittany Lions struggled to find momentum as Rutgers held the lead for much of the first set. Using the first set's small margin victory as momentum, Penn State quickly flipped the script, finishing the match with dominance and composure.
Made so many errors in that first set, in that first run of points, that we need to give ourselves a chance. And it was keeping the ball in play on the serve and being extra aggressive in defense.
Among the notable performers in Friday's match was freshman Gabrielle Nichols, who earned her first collegiate start. Nichols felt the nerves of competing on such a big stage, but quickly settled in and delivered.
It was a magical experience. My mom was in the crowd for sure, so I had a lot of butterflies.
Nichols earned 10 kills and 4 blocks and also closed the match with the game-winning kill.
I know I don't have to tell her that because she knows she goes hard every day in practice, and so it's not a surprise that she did what she did tonight.
But Friday revealed something deeper than volleyball. Fans quickly got to their feet as Rec Hall was filled with passion and energy.
The sea of pink that filled Rec Hall, both on the court and in the stands, revealed the deeper meaning behind the game of volleyball.
To see the pink in an unfortunate, case, but I'm happy that we're able to support this cause and, like I said, help people along the way.
The Penn State women's volleyball team has been on a roll. They have won 6 of their last 7 games since their Nebraska loss, beating 7th-ranked Wisconsin, but losing to unranked Washington. Let's start off with the Dig Pink match against Rutgers this Friday. What stood out to you this match?
So a player actually stood out to me, and that was Gabrielle Nichols. I mean, she's a freshman. This was her first collegiate start, and she was phenomenal. She mentioned in post-game media that she was very nervous coming into this match. Her mom was in the crowd. She had butterflies. I mean, I would be just as nervous as she was.
I know, I get nervous going to class, so I can't be a collegiate starter.
Me too. But with how well she played, you would have never have guessed that she was in the slightest bit nervous. I mean, she had 10 kills on the day, and she was dominant throughout the entire match. I also think it's important to notice that at one point there were 4 freshmen on the court, and when asked about this, Coach kind of laughed, and she said she was not in the least bit surprised about how well they did and how well they were able to finish out the match. And I think having these young girls on the court and having them look up to such highly skilled players is key in having a successful team, because when it comes time to fill their shoes, these players are ready and they're eager to take their place.
Absolutely. I also think there was a meaningful impact of this game. Obviously, we talked to Jordan Hoop in media, and she expressed that, this was special because Coach Katie obviously has a connection to breast cancer, and as the Dig Pink game is about breast cancer awareness, she said that Coach Katie would not highlight herself, but that the people that showed out in these stands, they were there for her. And I think it was really important. You could feel that energy being in the stands. And I think it gave the support to the players and to the team to really put that nail in the coffin for this sweep. Additionally, there were some flaws going into their UCLA and Nebraska losses that I think they really refined playing in this game. They did focus on those blocks. Apparently, they had been working on those blocks for hours in practice. They finally closed them. They got 10 blocks in this game. However, there were service errors, 15 service errors, which that was kind of a common denominator we saw in the UCLA games and against Nebraska.
Yeah, there were definitely some small errors in that Rutgers game, especially in the beginning of that first set. But the Nittany Lions did seem to come together and clean those up very fast as they were able to take the rest of that set as well as the match. Now let's shift gears and move on over to Sunday's match against Ohio State. The Nittany Lions took this one in 4. So tell me a little bit about how that went down.
I think the first set might have been a lot with the Buckeyes student section. I don't know how the Penn State players were ready for that. However, they came back to win the following 3 sets and win the game overall. There is one person we have to mention when we're talking about this game. Kennedy Martin. She had 26 kills and 21 digs. That's just truly an outrageous number. And if you're sick of us talking about Kennedy Martin now, just wait, because we have a lot of more games to go. And what can't Kennedy Martin do?
And I'm so sorry, but I have to mention her name one more time in this show. I mean, like you said, 26 kills, 21 digs, and to add on to that, 4 aces. So that just shows how versatile she is as a player. I mean, she's making plays from all over the court. I want to highlight those 4 aces. Coach mentioned that all week they really put an emphasis on serving hard. She told the team, I don't want you to serve easy just to get it over. I want you to put power in that serve. And not only Martin, I feel like the rest of the girls really showed that this weekend. Also going back to Martin's 21 digs. I mean, for her position, that is a very high number. That shows that she's putting in just as much work in the backcourt as she is at the net, making her even more versatile, like we've been saying throughout the weeks. And I think that's great for the Nittany Lions because these other teams don't know when, how, or where Martin is going to strike from.
Absolutely. We have to keep our eye on Kennedy Martin moving into more Big Ten play. The Penn State Nittany Lions will be playing Michigan at Ann Arbor on Friday, and then we'll return back to Rec Hall on Sunday to play Indiana. Now back to you at the desk.
We'll go through some of Penn State's upcoming games soon, but before we look ahead, let's go back and take a look at some of this week's top plays.
At number 3, we head to undefeated women's hockey. Tessa Janicki's miss is recollected by Danica Maynard, who buries one in the back of the net for a Nittany Lions score. At number 2, Penn State men's soccer netminder Jonathan Evans gets low for a big breakaway save against the Washington Huskies. And for number 1, we head back to Pagula, where Jared Crespo's slap shot from way downtown finds the twine to extend men's hockey's lead over Stonehill.
Looking ahead for Penn State sports, men's hockey will travel to Ohio State Thursday night, and 10-0 women's hockey faces Robert Morris on the road. Field hockey will also be on the road when they travel to Rutgers on Friday night.
Women's volleyball is at the University of Michigan on Friday to take on the Wolverines. Finishing off a busy Friday night, men's soccer takes on Ohio State on the road. Football is also playing at Ohio State on Saturday for a big noon kickoff game. Finally, women's soccer plays UCLA in the Big Ten quarterfinal on Saturday.
For more content, be sure to follow us on Instagram and X. Look for weekly sports updates and packages here on our YouTube. For everyone behind the scenes, our beat reporters, and our producers, for Jenny Karamus, I'm Connor Patterson. Have a great night.